What's up, everybody? You're listening to Lo-Fi Faith with Mike and James.
We're two guys who also happen to be pastors, doing our best to have open conversations about what it means to follow Jesus in today's world. Yo, what's up? This is Mike, and I'm joined by James.
Yo, what's up, Mike?
Yoo-hoo.
Woohoo!
You know, I'm just trying to, well, not trying. I do speak naturally.
That's how you always talk.
Like the young people kind of speak, you know?
Yeah,
You know what I mean, bro?
Whenever I see you, I'm like, this guy wants to be younger than he is.
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah. Anyway,
moving on. Glad that you guys are joining us for another episode of Lo-Fi Faith. James,
Mike.
what have you been up to lately, mate?
Man, that's a great question. I have been following through on my word, which...
That's unusual.
Mike, I think that's something that you should probably follow the lead on that.
Unsure what you're talking about,
If
but
you
okay.
recall, oftentimes during our opening statements, you will just say things and suggest things to do, such as mowing a person's lawn, et cetera, et cetera.
No memory of that, actually.
Well, thankfully, we have it on a recording. And so actually, you threw me under the bus a little while back and suggested that I do a race. And I threw out a very random distance. I believe it was 17.5K. And I chose that distance because I said no one in their right mind is going to want to run 17 and a half kilometers with me. And I was wrong.
Interesting.
So guess what I did?
I'm guessing you ran 17 and a half kilometers.
I ran 17 and a half kilometers.
And it was a race?
And it was an actual race.
Okay.
And it was against somebody just about half of my age.
All right. Unnecessary detail.
I think that's
I'm
very
assuming,
pertinent detail.
I already kind of know what the result is now because you made that comment, but yep, go on.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I feel bad for how badly I beat him. It's like, I didn't want to do that to a kid.
Okay.
You know?
So you won.
Well, I think I had the moral victory, and I think if you adjust for age and other circumstances, I think it was very close to a win.
So you lost.
Well, again, I don't really...
Okay, you lost. Yep.
I'm not really into this terminology, okay? I think that's very
It's very black and white thinking,
archaic,
right? It's like,
yeah.
What is winning? What is losing?
What is losing?
Yeah. That's a great question.
You know,
These are the kind of conversations we need to have on the podcast, on the show.
If you finish the race, isn't that a win in itself?
Yeah.
Okay? It's not really about the time, it's about the journey.
So you're all about participation rather than winning?
No, I really wanted to win.
Okay.
However, this person is in much better shape than I am. And so he was very kind, and he ran 10K with me at probably a very slow pace for him. And that allowed him to have a lot of reserves left in the tank for the second half of the race, where he absolutely dusted me.
So in that sense, you gave him the victory?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I brought him to my level, and then he beat me with experience.
Yeah, okay.
And no, he beat me by 7 minutes, which honestly I think is pretty good for a 17.5K race. If you adjust that again for time
and those
age
adjustments
and
are really important.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you should.
I mean, if you make enough adjustments, you actually beat him by 45 minutes.
And if you look at like maturity levels, like I would consider myself at a much higher age bracket.
Yeah.
And so in that way, I should be slower than I really am. So I outperformed in every metric aside from the actual time that I finished the race.
To be fair, none of this is actually testable. You're throwing out a lot of claims. It may be that you're well below your typical age bracket in terms of performance.
Scientific method is not everything, Mike.
Yeah.
The point is, the point, Mike, is I followed through on my commitment. I ran this race. Shout out to Asher. He crushed me with confidence and humility.
Now here's some honesty.
I have been in a great amount of emotional pain ever since.
Stuff it down.
However, I'm not ever going to acknowledge that again. However, I did follow through, which means the onus is now on you, Michael.
To mow some lawns. Yes, I get the point. I get the point. Look, it's coming. All right, it's coming. Now, quickly before we move on, I do want to just you said something about me throwing you under the bus with this race.
100%.
James, you know what? How you frame it is how you feel it. And I want to suggest a reframe for this moment. Okay, did I actually quote unquote throw you under the bus?
100%.
Or was I concerned that you needed a boost in your cardiovascular fitness, so I volunteered you for this moment, which actually was good for your health in the long run? You get to choose, James. I'm not going to tell you which one to choose.
I know which one I'm going to choose.
Okay, it's going to be the
You
negative
threw
one.
me under the bus.
Well, fair enough, man. If you want to feel
and that
way.
was very poor for my long-term cardiovascular health because I almost died.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, that's if you don't, no pain, no gain. You heard that expression?
Yeah.
So you've gained because of me. But hey, look, man, I'm used to not being thanked. So that's totally fine. And you know what? I think we'd better move on with the episode.
Follow Lo-Fi Faith with Mike and James on Instagram to keep up with new episodes, behind-the-scenes content, and to join in on the conversation. So, Mike, we're going to do things a little bit different as far as our conversation goes today.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're dealing with, like, theory, really, right? Theoretical concepts. And this conversation is going to have to do with some of the episodes we've done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
However, this has a little bit more to do with our actual lived reality.
Mm.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
I know where you're going with this, James.
So, for some context for everybody, Mike went slightly viral a couple weeks back. You can't find the video anymore. It has been taken down for reasons unbeknownst to us.
We don't know.
However, Pastor Mike was speaking at his church, and someone got a hold of a bit of that message, seemed not to like it very much.
I think that's a safe assumption.
And we got ourselves a real-time example of what it looks like to have a message taken out of context, chopped up, and thrown to the wolves. You want to tell us a little bit more?
Yeah. This was a very interesting experience. And yeah, obviously someone had taken my sermon, sent it to this individual who was I guess an online influencer is what you would call it in church circles, and has, a certain number of followers and posts content online. And so he received my my message, and he made a video of it where he took, little chunks of it, and he overlaid it with Bible verses and all kinds of things, basically to demonstrate that I am a false teacher, a bad guy, and that was definitely, I think, the angle that he was going for.
Well, the terms that came out of the video, right? And again, this was, I think, a really good example of how you can really manipulate something based on how you frame it, right? That this message, whether or not we agree with the message, the way that it was put together, there was a lie counter.
Yeah, so a lie counter on screen. There went ding, ding, ding every time I supposedly said a lie.
There was some very, broody music in the background that felt very foreboding, right? There was a couple times where they put a filter over you that was like this darker filter a little bit.
And I think at the same time as the filter came on, it zoomed up into my face.
Yeah, and honestly, it was much more flattering than your actual face.
I'm actually appreciative
but that's
of that
not the point. Yeah, thank you for that part. And then there were screenshots. Every time you made a claim, there would be a screenshot popped in that was typically an Ellen White quote. Occasionally, it was also a Bible quote.
Yep.
With no explanation, but it would show, apparently self-evidentially, that you were a liar.
Yes. not just that I was making a mistake, but that I was apparently an actual liar.
Like truly a wolf in sheep's clothing, which was one of the comments that came out, I think, a couple times.
A few times, we'll come to that,
Yeah, so this whole video was made specifically to demonstrate that you are not just mistaken, misled, you are actually somewhat evil, that you know what you're doing, and that you are actively harming people by what you were teaching.
Yeah, I think one of the verses that was overlaid was one from maybe 2 Timothy. Evil men and seducers will grow worse and worse.
That's right.
So that was an example.
So a couple questions here. Number one, do you know this person at all who made this video?
No idea. Didn't know he existed before this.
Okay. Did they reach out to you for dialogue beforehand?
No.
Okay, interesting. And what was the subject that you were talking on?
The subject was last generation theology, which we have covered on this show a couple of times.
That's right. Go back to some of our earlier episodes, and we addressed this concept.
And as it turns out, this individual was a strong proponent of last generation theology.
Very strong.
Obviously, what I said, he did not agree with.
So to bring that context back around for those who didn't hear those episodes, last generation theology is like our in-house term within our denomination for the idea that the onus is on character perfection before Jesus returns. And, there's nuance to it, and different people will say it differently. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this last group of people, it's going to be a very small group because it's very exclusive. They have to be perfect.
Morally perfect.
In order to vindicate God's character In other words, to prove that we can do what God tells us to do.
Yeah, that we can keep God's commandments.
That we
right?
must keep God's commandments. And this last generation is going to be the only generation who's ever done that.
Fully, yeah.
Fully. And, you know, there's a lot. There's a lot there, and go check out those other episodes to get some pictures of it. But this influencer, quote unquote, very much believes this.
Yeah.
But I think what we wanted to talk about a little bit was the methodology that was used and how that juxtaposes with the idea of perfection of character.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we could spend time getting into Bible verses and arguing theology, but look, as I've made clear on this show before, I've done that a lot in the past.
Yeah.
And I don't find that to be the most fruitful.
And
but
you've been on the LGT side.
I have. Yeah,
So
years ago I've been there.
There was a time that you might have actually agreed with most of his conclusions.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Maybe even reshared this video if it was somebody else.
Probably, you know, to my shame. But but that's not the angle we want to go down. We want, like, once you go down that road, it gets very complex. It gets very theoretical. It's usually not very fruitful either.
Right. And it also, to what end? Because there has to be good faith in order for dialogue and people to come to the table.
Yeah.
So here we are expressing our perspective on these things.
Yep.
With the understanding that we could very well be wrong.
Absolutely.
And we invite dialogue. And this is the response from people on the other side of this perspective and how they went about it, their methodology and the comments that came out. Do you want to you want to go there?
Yeah, so like in some of the earlier episodes, I think in one of those ones that we dealt with last generation theology, I made a little appeal, and one of the points I made there was that last generation theology has been preached and promoted in the church for a long, long time, actually. It's been given a really, really good go. There were moments when some of the editors of the largest publications in the denomination were in favor of last generation theology, and they would publish these articles that circled around the entire church. Like there's been a lot of publicity given to it, a lot of chances, and yet it seems to have quite chronically under-delivered, right? Huge promises. There's going to be a sinless generation, and yet we've just not seen that. And my experience in those circles has been almost the very opposite. It doesn't seem to produce what it promises. And this is kind of where I want to go with this. So in this video, you know, it ended up getting thousands of views. There were 80 plus comments roasting me, just absolutely roasting me.
Well, a couple points there. Number one, 80 plus comments, I think, within 48 hours.
Yeah.
So like it took off pretty quickly. It was shared quite thoroughly.
Yeah.
And then it kind of at some point was taken down where we're not really sure when that happened. But the initial response was quite large and overwhelming. And then when you say they were roasting you, I want to point out that as someone who regularly roasts you, there's supposed to be some component of humor.
Yep.
These weren't really funny.
No,
they were, I would say, attempting to eviscerate you.
Absolutely.
And almost nobody on the comments knows you personally.
Yeah. I think there was maybe one person that
does seem to be somebody who did know you personally.
yeah. But everyone else, I mean, these are people who lived all around the world, right? Like
worldwide, probably
worldwide roasting is what I was the subject of.
Every inhabited continent has now seen your face and somehow preemptively hates you.
Yes.
Which, for the record, is not the worst idea, but for very different reasons.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, I want to try to draw out a bit of the contrast here between what last generation theology, promotes, and yet what we have seen, and just using this little moment as an example. So, you mentioned, James, that on the screen, on this video, this 4 or 5 minute video that this guy made of me, there was a lie counter. Right, that's it. Just lie counter down in the bottom left corner, and every time I would say something that was supposedly wrong, it would ding, and there'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, he'd count up.
I think you got to 8.
Yeah. Now here's the thing,
which is honestly pretty small for when I talk to you. I wish I had a lie counter.
Here's one, I guess, issue that you could bring up with this. Right, it's one thing to listen to a message that from somebody that you don't know. Right, you don't know them personally, you don't know anything about them, and you disagree with some of their conclusions. Okay, sure. Then you might say, okay, they've made some mistakes, right? I think they're misguided. Maybe they haven't studied deeply the subject enough, whatever it is.
Right.
It's one thing to do that. That's totally fair.
Sure.
But when you say lie counter, when you use the word lie, that suggests intent. This person that you know nothing about, it seems like you're assuming that this person is up there intentionally trying to deceive people. So, for example, he could have said mistake counter. and it could have dinged 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's still a little bit of a cheap, method in my opinion, but it would have been a little bit more honest, I think, as opposed to going lie counter, assuming the intent, assuming the motives,
Right.
even though we've never spoken. This man knows nothing about me.
Right.
That to me seems to be a problem for a theology that is promoting character perfection, to then go around and assume the intent and the motives of someone you've never come across and you've never met. Right?
Absolutely. But at the same time, it does kind of make sense to me, because if your whole idea and your concept and worldview is, as a Christian member of this denomination, we should all agree on this idea of sinless character perfection at the end of time. And we believe we're in the last moments of time. And so when somebody of our own denomination gets up and preaches a message that dismantles that idea, how could they possibly just be misled? Like, to them, you have to be a wolf in sheep's clothing, because how could you possibly get to the level of speaking from a pulpit and then come to a totally opposite conclusion of them?
Yeah, I think you're probably right in suggesting that that's part of the thinking there. Now, that, of course, kind of denies the reality that there are many different people with many different perspectives, and people can be familiar with the materials of last generation theology and yet study them out and come to different conclusions.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong.
No,
Say
actually,
again. That's where you're wrong, buddy.
That's where I'm wrong.
If
Right.
you study them out, there is only one
You
conclusion.
will be convinced.
There's only one conclusion you can come to.
And you'll either be convinced, or you'll either be convinced and you'll own it, or you'll be convinced and you'll go, well, I don't care. I'm going to argue against it anyway. And they're being rebellious, and I'm trying to intentionally deceive people.
Right.
And presumably that was the assumption made about me, which I do think, again, is problematic. There were also the comments. There were a number of comments using, the language of the New Testament of a wolf in sheep's clothing. Right, that's how I was being characterized. Now, again, if you want to disagree with me, that's totally fine. Right, many people have disagreed with me in the past. James, you've always agreed with me, and you always will. But
I can't recall one time you and I have
and
been
you
on
just
the same
disagreed with me
page
right now
about anything.
So disagreeing is
There's
one
a lie
thing.
counter right there.
Yeah. Disagreeing is one thing, but again, wolf in sheep's clothing, that definitely suggests intent.
Yeah.
Right. That I am internally, I'm this bad guy, but externally, I'm making myself appear to be an ally and to be an advocate for the people.
Yeah.
Right. So again, people who don't know me.
Right.
They don't know anything about me, about who I am as a person, about my life circumstances, my background. They are very, very comfortable saying that I am an intentional deceiver.
Right.
And at the same time, these are the people who are trying to hold up the highest standard of character and saying we need to reach this before Jesus comes. To me, that's really problematic.
And it's based on a 5-minute video.
Exactly.
A 5-minute clip.
Yeah.
They didn't go back and they didn't listen to other messages. They didn't listen to that one in its entirety. They took this person's word, who heavily edited your message, and then saw that, and immediately, because of their trust in this person to have the best, most clear-sighted idea, they then immediately eviscerated you as a person, as a moral being, not even attacking your theology.
Yeah, it would be what you would call in logic an ad hominem, which is when somebody gives an argument or an idea, and instead of directly addressing that idea in order to oppose it, you attack the character of the person, which is completely missing the point. But it can often be rhetorically compelling, right? You decimate a person's character. People who maybe aren't thinking the right way can kind of go, oh, yeah, no, that's true. Oh, well, he must be wrong.
Yeah.
When actually, whatever the person's character is, whether it's good or bad or whatever, doesn't really have a lot to say about the idea. The idea should be examined on its own merits, and the character of the person is not really relevant for that purpose.
And ironically, because this whole theology is built on knowledge, having really good intellectual logic for their perspective. But what was done was actually very emotionally based.
Huge emotional reaction.
It was fear and anger based.
Yep.
The video was put together to draw out those emotions, and the response was a very emotional one.
Yeah.
So the people who want to say that we should never trust our feelings, right? We need to trust our reason, are actually making very unreasonable claims, which is kind of, I guess, what we wanted to bring out here, that we want to look at the fruits of what is happening.
That's it.
And so this mentality that we have to be perfect, right? and we've talked about this at other times, like John 13, 14, 15 gives you a really good example of what perfection is. It's agape love. If you want to be perfect, and Matthew says this as well, if you want to be perfect, you have to be perfect in selfless, unconditional love, like God is.
And that passage that we've dealt with in the past at the end of Matthew 5, when it says, be therefore perfect. Yeah. That's in the context of love, and of love directed against your enemies. Right?
Yeah. So tell me, did you feel the love, Mike?
Look, I've got to be honest, I don't think I felt an outpouring of love against me. It just, I mean, I can imagine that from their perspective, someone would say, oh, no, we are being loving because we're telling you the truth.
Right.
But the way that they told me the supposed truth was to me, at least, a decidedly unloving way that assumed motives, that assumed intent, that made huge assumptions about a person they've never met. There are other comments that I could share that were just nothing to do with anything.
Would you like to jump into do you have a couple other examples of comments?
Yeah. So another comment that was made was that one person felt nauseated because I was so casually dressed.
Yes, I do recall that. Now he was wearing a button up.
I was wearing a blue denim shirt with a white t-shirt underneath. Right?
Yeah, which was very casually dressed. To be clear.
Oh yeah, no, it is. And I
Mike,
do.
I am nauseated by you. That has nothing to do with this.
I already knew that, James, but we're not here to address you.
Okay,
we're addressing these other people
You're
in
right,
this video. I've accepted that about you. Yeah. I accept you as you are, as the person who is nauseated by me.
This is the first time you've ever accepted me for anything, Mike.
You're listening to Lo-Fi Faith with Mike and James.
Okay, so again, it was sort of an ad hominem attack. Again, it wasn't really about what you were saying. Mm-hmm. It was about how you were presenting yourself. Yeah. And also a moral judgment on how you were presenting yourself.
And I think beneath that comment was kind of like, look at this guy. He doesn't even know how to dress properly. How on earth could we trust the things that he's saying?
Absolutely.
So very much an ad hominem.
So any other comments?
There was one other who said, I look like a weird-looking Sunday pastor. Now that one stung a little bit.
The weird looking part.
What exactly was weird looking about me? I mean, is it my nose? Is it my teeth? Is it my haircut? I mean, come on, bro.
Keep going. The answer is yes to all of those.
Yeah. So that, I mean, again, it's like, come on, look. It does. First of all, none of these comments actually sting. They don't hurt me. I think I have a decent sense of self-esteem. I do stand on the things that I said. I'm convicted in them. And so I'm not surprised that when people who disagree with me are exposed to these ideas, that they have this kind of reaction. So it doesn't bother me. But the point that we're trying to make here, the contrast between a system that says you must be perfect, and then the very proponents of that system calling this person, he's nauseating, he's weird looking, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing, clearly intentionally deceiving people. None of that to me.
That's not the fruit of a perfected system.
Exactly. None of that meets the standard that they are promoting.
Fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. You're welcome. I'm not sure you knew that. You don't see that in the comments.
I don't think so. Like if we're being as fair as we can, I just don't think that that's the kind of fruit that we're seeing.
Or even how it was prepared.
Yeah.
And this is one of the issues, even especially with online culture, right? We want to get eyes on what we're doing. Well, how do you do that? You sensationalize the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Because if you sit there and work through the person's argument, you're going to get a much smaller audience. Yeah. But you're trading a lot of integrity and a lot of ethics for views. Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately what happened. That this person got a lot of views in a very short amount of time, relatively speaking. Probably could have grown even more. It was getting shared quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And it was at the expense of you as a person. Yeah. You could be depersonalized and they could just say, all of these things I feel about anyone who doesn't believe in LGBT, I can frame this person as that. Mm-hmm. I can assume all of their motives and all of their character, and then I can say whatever I want about them, which is the opposite of being perfect in love.
To me, and I've made this point, I think, on the show, I try to make this point in my sermons when I can. Theology always produces something. Theology never just stays theoretical. Like for a Christian, your theology is going to inform your worldview. It's going to be a big part of your worldview. That's going to impact the way that you relate to other people and to yourself. And this is not an isolated incident, right? When I was in last generation theology circles, I saw this kind of stuff a lot. I saw the way that whenever there was any kind of threat right? Or a perceived threat,
Yeah.
the claws came out. There suddenly seemed to be, and I'm not saying this every single time, but in a very general sense, an inability to just deal calmly with opposition to your ideas.
Yeah.
There was this tendency to kind of character assassinate and cause direct suspicion against the person, the individual, the organization, whatever it was, that was the perceived threat. And yeah, like, again, we could argue over Bible verses and theology all we want, but when I look at the fruit of this is the thing that really puts me off, right? And we have dealt with some of the theology, but the fruit just does not seem to be consistent
It doesn't
with
match it.
the promises.
It doesn't match it. And we're not saying this as people who have it all together with our fruit. We have so much growth that we need to do.
Yeah.
We talk about that a lot. However, I think that the difference is how we approach someone else that we disagree with.
Yep.
Right? That matters. It's really important. We can't have dialogue with stuff like this coming out. But that does seem to be a common theme, that when you believe in these certain ways, it leads you to a place of a great amount of fear.
Yeah.
And fear leads to the claws coming out. Because I'm threatened, you have to be a bad person. How could you possibly be a good person and say something that is so fundamentally opposed to what I say? That messes with my head, right? So you're too nice, you're too whatever, you know? So it's much easier to say you're a weird-looking dude dressing way too casually.
Wolf in sheep's clothing.
You're a wolf, and you're just a straight-up evil dude.
Yeah.
Because you said these things that I actually didn't even take the time to engage with.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, the fact, like, with us acknowledging that, we've got heaps of growth to go as every human being does. The other thing is that, like, I'm not making the same claims that last generation theology is, right? I'm not saying, hey, the standard is perfection and you need to reach that standard in order to be ready when Jesus comes. And I am trending in the direction of that standard. Like, that's not the kind of standard that I'm trying to uphold. And I feel like, honestly, if you want to promote that standard, hey, fair enough, you do what you want to do. But that's a huge burden to carry. And I hope that you would want to be able to evaluate yourself and analyze yourself and ask yourself those honest questions. Am I actually living in harmony with the standard? And I just don't see that in last generation theology. And I'm not surprised, because I don't think that human beings can be perfect this side of heaven. But yeah, if you're making the claims, man, like, be honest about, are you really living up to them or trending in the right direction?
Yeah, I think the standard according to the Scripture is perfection, but then it doesn't place the onus on us to be the ones who can just totally live up to it, right?
Yeah.
The more, it's a very self-centered, we talked about this in that episode. I think it's a very self-centered perspective, because it's about where I'm at all times. But the whole trend of Scripture, and especially the gospel, Peter's a really great example of this. You get out on the water, you take your eyes off Christ, you start drowning, right? Because the only reason you can walk on the water is because of him, right? His work. So why am I spending so much time focusing on my own shortcomings and trying to figure out what the next shortcoming is, when I could spend much more time just being in the presence of the one who loves me despite my shortcomings? And I think that's what actually perfects us. But we don't need to worry about that, right? Like, that's just not it. It's about relationship. It's not about a behavioristic checklist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, look, our time is winding up, but we're glad that we could have this conversation. It was definitely a little bit of excitement in the lo-fi faith world, and I just want people to remember that what you believe, like your theology, is going to have a practical effect in your life. And it's important, I think, to at times step back and say, what is the direction of my life? What is the trend of my life? Do I actually have peace?
Yeah.
Do I actually live, a life that has some joy in it? Because I know that there are many expressions of theology that take those things from a person. And if you're in that position, I want people to know, and for any last generation theology listeners, I don't hate you at all. I don't have bitterness towards anyone who's jumped online and commented against me. Like, that stuff is like water off a duck's back to me. But I do have concern for you, because I genuinely do believe that you are in a theology that is not going to trend your life in the direction that you want it to or that you hope it to. And I just hope that these kind of conversations can at least cause people to think a little bit and go, man, is this really where I need to be? Is this really this kind of standard that I need to be promoting?
Yeah, I hope it this conversation allows people to question their motives as to why they say what they say or think what they think in regards to other people. If we want to move forward as believers, like in any sort of community or fellowship together, which maybe some people don't want to do that, but if we do, it's got to be from a place of good faith, right? That okay, I don't agree with this person, but I do believe that they are trying to follow their conscience, even if it leads them in a very different direction than where it's leading me.
Yeah.
Then we can come to the table, we can talk it out, anything. And we might leave the table still disagreeing.
Yeah.
But you've got to trust that the intentions are what they say they are.
Unless you have really, really, really good evidence
Right.
to show that they're not.
100%.
But if you've never met somebody, you probably don't have that kind of
You
evidence.
can't do that, yeah. And I think we just get way too bold behind a computer screen sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Mikey, for laying your life on the line, standing on business. This has been a very interesting perspective to see, right? Like, we come across these videos all the time. Sometimes we pick them apart a little bit ourselves, but we've never seen our own face be the one who is just being absolutely destroyed
Roasted,
online.
man. Roasted. Yeah.
All right, any last words?
No, that's it. See you guys next time.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Lo-Fi Faith. If something resonated with you today, we'd love it if you shared the show with a friend.
You can catch up on past episodes at plains.org.nz and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll be back with a fresh episode in 2 weeks.
See you then.